Hey guys, this is Tom Bucks, and we've got everybody's favorite Twitch streamer slash YouTuber on the channel here. Give a warm welcome to Pack. Sorry, man, I gotta cut you up there.
No worries. Yeah, glad to be back on for another episode of Ultimate Counter Guide.
Yeah,
this is gonna be a good one with such a weird one. I think it'll be cool.
This is kind of weird because rather than covering like matchups now, we can't do it this format. This is impossible to do this format because like we'll be covering the same stuff over and over. We're gonna be covering engines this time around. So across the top we have Adventure Engine, the Punk Engine, Site DP, which is everything there is inclusive of their sequence. So anything that happens within the sequence, we're going to talk about it. We have Hulk from the Rox Rose to Aurora Dawn, and I guess the only matchup that's kind of doing its own thing, funny enough, is actually Sword Soul. And these are the matchups we're going to be covering because this kind of covers like most decks, to be honest. And if you guys want to learn to solve the older decks, well, we have older counter guides for that too, so you can check out the older ones. So you can kind of use this as a kind of a hybrid series, a little tack on. But make sure you guys, before we begin, make sure you guys go to Pack's channel, hit subscribe, go to his Twitch, go to hit him a follow, hit the subscribe if you want to. You know, I recommend it. You know, Tom Box definitely recommends it. You'll learn a lot just watching him play because you're one of the players that definitely speak their mind when you're playing. You do speak your mind, which is why it's super entertaining to get into the mind of Pack. That's also a series on his on his YouTube. So check it out.
So I appreciate it.
No, for sure, for sure. And if you guys can just do me a solid, hit that thumbs up button on this video and hit subscribe, ding that notification bell so that we can begin. So we're going to be splitting this into hand traps. We're going to talk about going first and going second. All right, I'll let you kick it off with the hand traps. You can kind of give a brief synopsis about this stuff first because we both have our, like, you know, the same notion about hand traps this format.
Yeah. So in totality, we have Ash Blossom, Ghost Ogre, Nibiru, Drone Lockbird, Lencia, and then Cypherm Gamma. I think those are like the majority of hand traps that I see that would potentially be in people's main deck. Gamma's like the only one that probably isn't. But I think the other 5 are pretty commonly played in main decks. So I think it'll be really good to cover over them and how they interact with like each of the respective engines that we see on the top.
But one thing we do know that is that most hand traps in this particular format, they kind of fit into this category. They do not work really well alone. Like you're only stopping parts of stuff, or you're only getting rid of the negation, so that you're gonna have to pair it with something. And a lot of it, you know, not all of it is due to Adventure Engine, but a big part of it is because Griffin does get a free setup before you get to even drop the nib. So let's just imply that that is already applied, so we're gonna go ahead and go into our lineup. How do you want to go about this? Do you want to go hand trap to hand trap, or do you want to go engine to engine?
I think we can go hand trap through hand trap within one engine, so like going vertically.
Going vertically
makes the most sense.
Let's do it then. All right, starting off with Ash.
Yeah, we'll start off with Ash for the Adventure Engine. I think Ash is only, it's like it has 2 uses in this matchup, right? Or like in this engine. You can either Ash Aquamancer or the Enchantress, and that's like a really good hit. Or you Ash the effect to search Griffin, so it trades 1 for 1 for a potential Omni. So I would say like it has 2 uses, and I think like conceptually what it does is like fine. Obviously, like, you know, as Tom Box mentioned, we're caveating it with the fact that obviously if they're any part of like the rest of their lines would require a secondary hand trap. But just tackling the Adventure Engine by itself, I think Ash is pretty solid.
Okay, that's fair.
Yep.
Yeah, I would agree there. You either Enchantress or Faithful to Griffin. Don't stop the Draco back. That's pointless.
Yeah.
I mean, unless you really need that back row, I personally wouldn't recommend it. Now, as for the Punk Engine naturally, it's actually pretty decent against them. There's multiple things you can hit, but you have to be aware of how they start.
Oh, we're gonna do.
Sorry. Yeah, we're going down. We'll go back. Ghost Ogre. Now, this is probably my favorite hand trap. I think I've talked about this 5 bajillion times already, but this one has multiple things you can do here. I'm just doing a little bit of copy and pasting here, but
I feel like this one always does what it's designed to do within this respective engine, which is a hit Faithful Adventure, and sometimes if you're 5-head enough, you hit the Griffin. And I'll let you explain the ruling interaction with that.
So Griffin can actually Omni negate something while there is an adventure token on the field, but it can only negate something if it's able to successfully jump back into the deck. If it does not go back into the deck, it does not negate because it is not a cost, and that's kind of what we want to get to. Because it's not a cost, you Ghost Ogre it in the chain, you chain to it, it gets destroyed, it does not bounce back, it does not negate the effect.
Yep. And so like one of the things that I've actually done in tournament before was I thought my opponent potentially had a Griffin in their hand, so I didn't Ogre Faithful Adventure. So ultimately I basically effectively gave up I gave them a free search for what do you call it, the Dracoback, and then I let them set up the free enchantress because they actually hard drew it. And the reason why I held Ogre until my own turn was because I had like evenly match. So I wanted to guarantee that I can Ogre them, you know, while they have like, you know, the Griffin on the board. Because if you Ogre if you Ogre the Faithful Adventure, they usually convert the token into like a Link Spider. So by letting them summon Griffin, they think they're safe, basically. And I think that's like the application there, like why you would basically hold it to Griffin. But it makes Ogre, I think the other important thing to also keep in mind is that like, you know, you draw 5 cards in your starting hand. That sounds like really obvious, but it's the impact of whether these hand traps are also good as a 6th card. And Ogre is definitely one of those cards that's really, it's a strong card to draw as a 6 because it can answer the Griffin, which means that you have a way to answer one of the Omnis if you need to push.
Yeah, it's nothing like 6-card Maxi or 6-card Nib. Those are the one you look at it and you dread, like, damn, why don't you switch positions with this other card of mine? Next card. This is a pretty big one. It is the Rock Nibiru. Against the adventure package, I would say I can't say it's completely bad, but let's just put this. I think the one thing that makes
I would
sense,
say Nib is probably the best hand trap in the game right now, but it just needs to be paired with another hand trap for it to really see value. Obviously the adventure engine actually commits 2 extra bodies onto the board, so it feels the Nibiru requirement quite easily. So I think that's kind of cool in that aspect, but obviously Nib by itself doesn't answer the adventure engine. So that's partially good. It's not exactly a check a dash because it's not exactly conditional, or there's no like double mind game play there. Next, Jordan Lockbird. This one, it's all right depending on where they start. I mean, you're gonna be able to stop some level of searching with this. If they start with the Enchantress, then you're cutting off the Griffin, you're cutting off the Dracoback. The engine essentially is just 1 token. So in that particular case, it's good. But then, of course, the engine can start immediately with the token, and then you're only stopping, depending on how greedy they get. If they decide to grab the Dracoback first, then you can still drop it and you can prevent the Griffin from being added. It's still good. Anti-search is pretty decent against this engine, and hopefully they don't get like an additional way to kind of grab the card again. Sometimes they hard open 2, sometimes they normal summon the Enchantress anyway because they open both copies, and that's why Enchantress is so strong. And that's why this engine is just ridiculously good, because unlike most other engines, this one has like a 7-card starter. And I think the thing with Droll to keep in mind is that it's a hand trap that is -1, and so what that means is that it's one of those hand traps that if you main deck, you have to just use it after the first search, regardless of whether or not it has an impact, unless you main deck droplets and you need the extra card to pitch. And it's just, I think that's like the more important thing. Like, there's not ever a reason to hold Droll unless you play droplets in conjunction with Droll in your main deck, which also doesn't make sense to me. And that's why I've never been a big fan of playing droplets coinciding with hand traps, because like it kind of like defeats the purpose of what the hand traps are designed to do. But just that's not something to be aware of. Just drop it on after the first search is the more easy, obvious answer, I guess.
As for Lancia, this is a weird one because if you shotgun the Lancia and they're not using Water Enchantress, it's like you did nothing. It absolutely does nothing.
It falls in the same logic I was just explaining about Droll, and that's why I was trying to segue into it, where if you main deck Lancia, right, you just shotgun it in standby phase. It's no point not to. You have to play around Enchantress. You get hard punished if you don't. But obviously, if they hard open rights, then it's not amazing. But you still have to do it anyways in standby phase just to play around the turn player using like if they use their priority in main phase 1, their first action to banish the Enchantress, you're gonna be like in for a pickle. So.
Yeah. Gamma, this one's kind of an interesting one because it is one of the I would say it's as strong as an ogre, but at the same time it's also more conditional. What are your thoughts on ogre?
I think ogre on Enchantress has the same impact as Ash. I'm sorry, Gamma on the Enchantress has the same impact as Ash.
Yep.
But Gamma can also fill the purpose of an ogre on the Griffin. I would say like. So it's weird because Gamma isn't like the best hand trap into the adventure engine, but it's kind of like a Nibiru where like Gamma plus any other hand trap is very it answers a lot of cards, and because it removes the body too, it's really nice. But I would say it's definitely it's a hand trap that when paired has more impact than just drawing it by itself for sure. And especially into this engine.
Something like this.
Yeah,
because it's like it's not really that great because it's way more conditional, I would say, for this particular card. Because if you went first and you somehow actually end up with a Gamma, so you main deck this card, which most people do not. But if you establish a board, Gamma's kind of a bit of a dud. You would have tossed it over cost, you would have gotten rid of it. Like
you can Gamma Griffin in the hand, which like I think is fine. But like I said, it always trades 1-for-1 with an Omni, but I think like when you pair it with something else, you get to use like let's say an ogre to stop the Griffin, and then the Gamma on their their actual engine play is usually where Gamma shines.
Okay.
But obviously we're strictly talking about just the adventure engine, and as a whole, like holistically. But Gamma shines more when it's used on the actual engine of the deck, rather than like the the Brave cards.
I think, guys, when you see something like on this chart here, just remember that there are other things on the board that you probably have to weave around, and you're going to have to use your own knowledge to kind of weave around it, because it's really hard to talk about decks because everything is so layered behind certain kinds of negation, certain types of deck-specific disruption. You're still going to have to answer that, and you're going to have to prioritize what matters more to you and how to sequence it so that you can get the best value. I can't give you the best option here because it's so hard to talk about it.
Yeah, hand trapping by itself is, I consider, like one of the most important technical play of modern Yu-Gi-Oh! Because it's your only fighting chance when you lose the dice roll, because the card advantage that you generate going first is like absurd. So like knowing how to correctly use your hand traps, I feel like is very important, just because the turn 1 over the years have become like absurd. So it's a skill, it's something that you develop over time as you play more and more formats, and like that's like a whole nother video, a whole other topic. But
so when are you gonna make that video?
Yeah, maybe I'll cover it in like one of those technical play videos. Yeah, about like how do you hand trap your opponent even if you don't know how their deck works, right? Like understanding their win cons and all that good stuff. Like I'll do a quick little sidetrack moment where, like, for example, if you've never played against like the Flunderies matchup, right? You understand that what you lose to is the big bird. Why would you ever Ash Robina when the card that gets the big bird is Eaglin, right? Like something as small as that, like understanding what are their win conditions, and does the hand trap make sense? Because I've seen a lot of people Ash Robina, and that's, like I said, completely big sidetrack, but it's just kind of like that logic, like like what do you lose to?
Makes sense.
And answering that question in your head, but yeah.
Oh, well, thanks for the preview of your upcoming video. Okay. New drop alert, guys. Finally, the tournament mat that you guys love so much is now available in cloth. With very limited quantities, you guys are going to want to pick up this one really quick. And in its new cloth form, you can bring it to the in-person events that are happening. This is going to be one of the cleanest mats on the market, and all the mats will come in a frosted, sealed, waterproof bag. And don't forget about all the sleeve merch options you guys have available at MSTmerch.com. From oversleeves or premium diamond series sleeves to the durable tournament-oriented carbon series, you guys can find any sleeve that you need at MSTmerch.com. Thanks for checking it out, guys. I do appreciate it. And now, I guess we'll get back to the video. Let's jump into Punk. Punk I play this package in Sword, so I love this package, but it does come with its drawbacks from time to time, and we're going to talk about the drawbacks right here with the hand traps. So for Ash, there's two things you can hit with the Punk Engine. One is Z-Aimon, because it generates way too much stuff. This is a 1-card 2-tuner. It could either be, if you E-Telly it, it's 2... Okay, it's basically 2 cards for 2 tuners, which is pretty silly. I think that's immediately a How combo without even committing a normal. That's ridiculous. You can sometimes try for the E-Telly. That's because if they're trying to E-Telly it out, it gives you a little bit of a tell. Because not a lot of people run more than one Z-Aimon. Because if you run multiple Z-Aimon, it's kind of bad. Z-Aimon can't search Z-Aimon anyway, so the only other copy ideally they would rather run is actually Madam Spider. So if it's an E-Telly, it is actually still worth hitting the E-Telly. Because the E-Telly port just tells you that, hey, they don't have Z-Aimon in their hand. And Ghost Ogre, there are targets for this too. That is going to be... I'm pretty sure it's going to be Hulk.
Yeah, you do it on Hulk for sure.
Or is it Hulk or Rorodon, depending? I think Hulk, depending on how they play. If they're playing like kitchen sink, then you probably hit the Hulk anyway, because they're probably not going into Aurorodon, especially if the board's already built. But I'm gonna put a star on this because it's really hard to guess, because this one is a little bit more matchup dependent. You need to know what's going on for this particular case. Because
it's not an amazing card. Like it's like very average at best, but it can maybe like, you know, remove bodies from the board state. But quite honestly, it's not amazing. It's very average. Even hitting a Aurorodon like doesn't stop it because they can't link summon anyways. Aurora just sits there. All you do is, like, if they're playing the 10 source deck, all you do is you stop a potential Aurora Tribute itself pop Yazi moment. But it's okay. Like, it's very average.
Nib against this, it's actually pretty decent. It's like immediately free setup.
Yeah, it's very good just because of the fact that most of the Punk Engine is designed to give you access to a Hockey Firex line. So it's usually enough, like, by itself to like be able to stunt them in their plays. They keep in mind they still get a impermanence in through the nib throughout all of this. So that's something that you have to like weigh in as well. But it is what it is.
Droll strictly for the Punk Engine, I don't think it does anything here. I guess they get the one search.
All you do is you stop Zen Admin from. All you do is you stop the guy that searches the trap, basically. That's all you do. You stop one imperm, but I think it's still fine depending on their deck. Like, it's okay. Like, you know, it's not amazing. But most of these people that are playing, it just happens to be that most of the decks that are playing the Punk Engine are also playing the Brave cards. So like the sequence usually is you start off with the Brave, and then when you draw the Brave Engine, usually the Punk cards are kind of useless. They don't do anything. So that's why like it's one of those moments where like when you. Like, Droll is just it's never a bad card because usually all these decks that you see up there are playing the Adventure Engine. So
unless you see like someone play like a pure Punk deck, then probably don't play. Don't play Droll.
That deserves an applause.
They're really brave without the brave token. Lancia, again, it's kind of other engines, but against Punk itself,
Punk does nothing.
It's an X here. Gamma's good. Takes away the Z-Aimon, prevents everything. The entire line gets cut off if you cut off the first summon, and you might even eat the normal.
Either if they commit a normal summon to the Punk Engine, you definitely Gamma that in a heartbeat. If they use Teleport, you might have to contemplate that a bit, but because basically at that point it's like an Ash into the Teleport. If you think about like in terms of how card advantage trades, it's okay. It's pretty good if they commit the normal. It's just not as clear if they start off with Teleport, I would say, but you still do it, I think.
Normal.
There's an argument to do it on Fibrax or Aurora too, because that's usually the line, but yeah, we'll see.
I guess people can't see what I'm typing now. I'm off screen. I'm sorry, guys. I'm bad at this. Bad content creator. Okay, this one, I think we can pretty much just gun through this one. I think we all know
we can speed through this.
Okay,
we all know how DP works.
So against
it's only good in Fusion Destiny. Obviously.
Fusion D. It's good. I mean, you should still do it.
Yeah,
but it's like it's just gonna be a piece of the puzzle. Okay. Ogre.
I mean, if they make Anaconda, it doesn't do a thing.
Yeah.
Ogre into DP only works if only card on they control on their field is DP. I did it in one of my feature matches. If you watched the previous YCS, where I use Ogre on DP to because DP has to pop one card on on the owner's field.
Self-popping.
And if it doesn't, if it doesn't pop, if it's unable to pop, then it cannot pop any other card on the field. So if you chain Ogre to DP's effect and all they control is DP on their field, the DP will not be able to pop any other card.
Yeah, that's someone played around that this weekend against me, and I was like, oh man, I got this Ogre. Oh, this is gonna be so sick. And then they decided to like, no, I'm not gonna pop. I'm like, okay, you activate. I'm chain. And they decide to play cards out of their hand just to load up the field a little bit more, so they can keep their cards safe. I was like, damn it! Oh, I'm so close.
Nice.
But you know, that's something to be aware of. You can't just let it go for free. Nib is
pretty bad.
Yeah, because he's gonna self pop and then he's gonna come back. So you're never gonna really be able to get rid of that DPE. So that's why this one is a bit of an X here. Droll does nothing to my knowledge because Scythe sets directly onto the field, and there's not really much else you want to do here. Lancia. Lancia's
you stop the Celestial.
Yeah, it's to me it's like it's
but
good.
Already,
it's good and bad.
It's good. It's honestly it's pretty awful because like think about it. Like you're already every turn that DP survives, that's a -1 or card advantage on your end, and then now you have to go -1 on Lancia. Yeah, they didn't get a draw too, but then like you went -2, so it's pretty bad. And Gamma is pretty good.
And besides, they're gonna draw right after anyway because the turn after it's live again. So Gamma versus this particular package, I guess against the like
DP Graveyard effect is pretty good.
Yeah, DPE Gray GY effect is pretty good.
If you can't beat DP, if they go like DP pass, like, this only happens in like Sky Striker, and you know Fusion Destiny kills DP at the end phase. You can just Gamma DP. Sometimes they pop DPE at end phase before they pass over to you. You can Gamma that as well. Gamma Anaconda, obviously. You can Gamma Scythe in the graveyard as well. I mean, there's ways where they Scythe lock you still, but it's a consideration, you know. I think if you have the option to Gamma on your turn, I think you always do. It's 2 extra bodies, so why not?
It's free.
Yeah, it's totally free.
And you can go into your own Hulk combo.
Yep.
Yeah, that part's ridiculous. Yeah. All right. Well, that was pretty quick. As you can see, lots of hand traps not very good against this particular package. And the sad part is, you're gonna see a mix of all this stuff. So like you can see how mixed up it is in most cases here. Ash versus Hulk Rose play. Oh my god, this one.
Always Ash Hulk.
Yeah.
Because especially. Always has Hulk because if they summon Red Rose from the deck and they start synchro summoning,
it's over.
The card advantage just gets too absurd. Yeah. So always has Hulk, to be honest.
There's nothing.
Yeah, there's something else to say about that.
It's just really Hulk there because
Hulk. Yeah.
You have to hit it, and even if they have some sort of Mega Phantom Beast play. To my knowledge, most decks running this do not have additional machines. They can't really find a way to just jump back into Auroradon without their Despot either way. So you should probably hit this particular spot. Ogre versus this. I would probably still hit the Hulk. I don't want it on the field. Unfortunately, it's more effective versus the Auroradon play because, again, the lack of machines make it worth it. But you could also hold it.
It's honestly like very bad. It's literally awful. Like, because like think about it, right? Like when they make Fiber, they always summon Rose.
Yeah.
So they go Rose plus whatever into Baron, summon Rocks Rose, search the spell, Reborn, make Anaconda, right? Like it doesn't, like they don't like. It potential. They need one extra extender to Scythe lock you. But like I'm talking about any extender in the game, anything makes Scythe DP with a Baron up. So it's like pretty bad. Like it doesn't trade well at all.
No, but if you know the matchup, or they're playing Sword Soul, for instance, then you're gonna do it anyway because Sword Soul will probably not bring out the Rose, to my knowledge, unless they're playing 10 Yi. Okay, there's a difference between Sword Soul and playing 10 Yi Punk package with just 10 Yi, because they will probably have a Rose in there, and that's a different end board because like even within Kitchen Sink, there's Vishuda in there, and that Vishuda typically turns into a Baron. And can also, because of the amount of tokens it generates, it also bounces a card. So this one is kind of like, this one's kind of bad.
Yeah.
How play versus Nib? Yes, I would love to. Again, I think it's this.
Yeah, you have to pair it. They make Baron.
Yeah, they make Baron. It's hard to hit. Okay, guys. Droll. If you preemptively hit them with a Droll, then you block the red basil shoot from being added, but alone it doesn't really do anything. If the red basil shoot is the first search, it's not likely. But
all you do is you stop
all
you do is you stop like a search off red rose. It's like pretty bad.
No, it's not for it. Just because there's an X here doesn't mean it's bad, because as long as there's a check somewhere else on the list, it means it's still going to be effective because they're still impacting some level of their play. Lancia versus Hulk, this is just I don't think it does anything.
That's not good at all. If they're playing the slight DP, it's not good. If they're playing like the Sword Soul version, then it could be kind of okay. But
that's for Sword Soul.
That's for Sword Soul. Yeah,
that's for Sword Soul. Gamma, yeah. Well, of course, we're just gonna kill it.
Yeah, Gamma's crazy.
You can't even dodge it. It's just dead. Okay. Wow, we're clear. Look at us cleaning house on this hand trap list. Make sure you guys hit that thumbs up button if you guys enjoy what you see so far. All right.
Yep.
And we're gonna take 5 seconds here to give you a chance to go click the link in the description. Go to Pack's channel. Go click on that subscribe. What are you guys waiting for? Oh my god.
Let's do it.
Okay. All right. You guys are back now. Okay. Welcome back, everybody. So Sword Soul. Okay, we should know this matchup by now, but of course it has changed up. No more Protoss, and without the Protoss, we're not getting like locked out.
3 crucial spots.
Okay.
Like, so we have Emergence, because obviously that's like one of the few Ash targets. You have Ecclesia, the Virtuous. You have Vessel. If they start off like special 10 and make Monk, like Vessel is really good. And then the One-Up Desires, I mean, it's not an engine card, but it's, I just joke about it.
But do people actually play it?
Yeah, you still do, because it says draw 2.
it's pot of greed now.
Yeah. So
it's got a lot of stuff to hit. As for Ogre, there are certain areas you can hit, but from what I've seen from Hani's build, he dodges Ogre with Heavenly Dragon Circle.
He plays Circle, yeah.
He plays Circle.
Most people don't.
I know, but you know what? I respect the guy. I respect him.
You do it on the normal summon anyways. Better have it, yo.
So, yeah, there's a lot of...
If they have Call by the Grave, they have Call by the Grave. If they have the rights to beat the one hand trip, they have it, So you still Ogre the normal summon. There's almost no reason not to.
Yeah, the normal summon. It's pretty good. Force them to be stuck on a token so that they can't link anything off. It's pretty good.
Yep.
And there's no...
A lot of people don't play Shathana too, so they get heavy punish. Like, even if they activate Vessel afterwards, it doesn't do anything. Because like a lot of them don't play Shathana, so the normal summon is definitely the best spot. To be honest.
Nib is a dash for me because it depends on how they start.
It depends on how they play their hand out. But it's pretty average.
Yeah, they start with negate. There, that's the appropriate question. You should ask yourself this.
There's 2 lines. Usually, sometimes you go special Vishuddha, make Monk, special Hara, make Fiber. Immediately, because it plays around a lot of hand traps that way. It eats everything, and then you commit your actual normal summon to a play. So it just depends how they start.
Yeah. From what I know, Sword Soul can get pretty aggressive, even play through a Nib, and sometimes he'd even OTK through the Nib if they're starting with 10 Yi cards, and that's very deadly, especially when they go with Hulk play. Because
this is one of my favorite decks to play. Like I really enjoy this deck. It's so much fun.
I mean, it is a really, really strong deck, and I love the fact that it can kind of keep itself without really touching into the adventure stuff. Some people play Punk. Punk is aggressive because Punk you want to start with Baron all the time, which makes it very safe. But it does have its drawbacks as well, because you're so combo oriented that if your combos do get cut off, your board is ending with nothing. Your follow ups aren't as strong, but your end boards are stronger, and you have a stronger start. But if it does get crippled, it hurts. It hurts a lot.
Yep.
Droll is good.
Yeah, Joel's pretty good. Yeah, especially they start off Emergence. Vessel, like Joeling them there is really nice. Because you stop Shizhao and the draws. You stop the new Secret 10 from drawing. I think the card advantage. This deck sometimes, Sword Soul has they generate a lot of card advantage through their synchros, and I think the Droll makes it so that if you control them and crack their board, they usually don't have a way to recover, which I think is super underrated. Like, you shouldn't ever scoop just because they have a really good board, because if you can bait all the negates and crack it, they don't really have a follow-up usually because of the draw.
A funny thing about Droll, or rather the new Qixing Longyan, the new synchro. So Nishi was playing over the weekend, and he decided to just go ham by starting with that as his synchro. He went like green. He had the chance for Baron. He's like, nah, not gonna go Baron.
Oh,
I'm gonna go for the draw. He's gonna go for the draw. He went for the draw. He got a double draw and search. And I'm like, dude. And then he ended his hand with like, he had Ashe, Veiler, and Ogre in his hand with the trap set on the field, that monster on the board, and the other card. I'm like, dude, how's the other guy even gonna have a chance now? The guy's like dead. He can't special because he's losing his card. He can't play a spell and he's getting banished. I'm like, oh man, that's gonna be a rough time for the other guy. Just be careful. Anyways, that was just a little sidetrack story. Next, we have Lancia. Lancia's actually pretty decent. I actually enjoy it because most builds do play Tenyi, and
there's always shock in it.
This is just good. You know what? I'm just gonna. Here's the note, guys. This is the note for you. Tenyi, done.
And then Gamma's only, and then for the next time trip, Gamma, the only way you get punished is Ecclesia. So
it's kind of
just don't forget that when you Gamma, if you Gamma Moye and they have Ecclesia, they just special summon Ecclesia from hand because you control more monsters than they do, and then you summon Tae and you still combo. So it's a, don't get me wrong, it's a crazy hand trap, but it's like they do have a way to play around it, or play through it depending on how they open. It's only it's a 3 of those, so it's not unlikely.
Something like that. Okay. All right. So this is going to be our first video. We got 2 more, maybe 2 more, maybe 1 more. We'll see how fast we cover it. But this is the first video, guys, for the hand trap lineup. I'm sorry we can't really cover like not engines, but like decks directly because it's impossible. If we put like Kitchen Sink, Cyberse Eldritch, they all kind of do the same thing. In fact, this format,
it would literally be the same chart.
Yeah,
for all of them.
Yeah, it'd be like it would be checks for everything because it would include everything. So we want to break it down for you guys with a little bit more of like a microscopic look. And if you guys enjoyed this video, make sure you guys hit that thumbs up button, hit subscribe, and ding that notification bell. All right, guys. You know what? Thank you guys for watching. I'll see you guys in the next one.
Peace.